Good day everyone, hope you're all doing really well. Is Colombina the new Kokomi for Nilou Bloom teams? Well, that's what we'll find out in today's video, and don't mind the little Asha icon, good times. Alright, so what we're going to do today is look at the classic Kokomi Nilou Bloom team, so that is Nahida Kokomi, Kale and Nilou. And what we'll then do is substitute out Kokomi for Columbina, and then we'll substitute out Kale for Loma. And so basically we're going to compare 4 different scenarios. And the way we're going to do this is through the practice dummy that you can find on the Millie Astro Wonderland. If you're on EU, you can see the GUID there, but this one is so famous that it is pretty easy to see online. So what are we looking for today? Well, luckily in the Nilou Bloom team's case, we can track reactions, we can see the spread of the damage throughout the team, but more importantly, I want you to pay attention to how quickly the damage per second ramps up, how consistent it stays at a given level, what are the peaks that you can get, so your P90, your 90th percentile, 99th percentile, and then exactly how the team's damage and the rotation feels. Is it easy? Is it consistent? And so forth. So there are lots of little things to consider here. It's not just a case of, okay, I put in Kokomi, I put in Colombina, everyone has a higher DPS and we call it a day, because there are a lot of little small technical things that we can point out. But I just do need to make a little bit of a disclaimer. My Nahida is C6, my Nilou is C6, obviously Kale is C6, my Loma is C2, and my Kokomi obviously is the Kokomi we've always been playing. She's optimized for the lunar reactions, and then obviously Columbina is just a C0 Columbina with a signature weapon. I do realize that Columbina can still have better talent, so mine is at 688, and I obviously note that in the future she'll be able to do even more reaction damage. So whatever you see today, Columbina is going to be a bit better. But I'll do give you a bit of a spoiler, so yeah, look, Colombina is going to be better than Kokomi. It's exactly as you'd expect. If a new character that's Hydro comes out after 3 years of the Nilou Bloom teams being out, and she specializes in these reactions, the Lunar Bloom reactions, you'd expect that she's going to offer you a bit more. Otherwise, why would you pull for the character? And that's exactly what we can see. We can see a faster ramp up time to the DPS, although in this specific instance you do get like slightly higher P99 like percentile DPS numbers with Columbina, and you do get them a bit more consistently, but the gap in of itself is not as big as you might have seen from other content creators. And I think the reason for that is because this team already has a C2 Nahida and a C2 Nilou, the effect of Elemental Mastery really comes through, so that Lunar Bloom damage is not keeping. Well, I would say it is better than like the Nilou Bloom damage. It's like a very difficult thing to explain, but in a certain sense, if you didn't have the constellations on Nilou or Nahida, then the Lunar Bloom damage is obviously going to outpace the normal Dendro Core reaction damage. But because of those constellations, that gap in of itself is a lot less, and that's why you find that at the base case, or for the classic Nilou Bloom team, you don't get that much of a difference, although you can certainly see that Columbina does give you a bit of a bump up. Although you probably are going to want to run something like a prototype Amber just to keep the team yield, but in most practical cases, I mean, you can see this was 85 seconds that we ran this. The entire team survived, so it's not going to be that problematic, and if it's an AoE scenario, you probably would have already cleared the teams out. Speaking of AoE, we are currently obviously looking only at a single target, so do understand that the conclusions we reach today really only offer a single target. The one thing that you must keep in mind, especially with these Nilou Bloom teams, is that Nilou's ring is portable, Kokomi's jellyfish is stationary, and obviously Kokomi with the sacrificial fragments can definitely reposition her jellyfish. So in that sense, if you've got a wide spread of enemies, you can plop your jellyfish somewhere at one place, and then obviously Nilou's ring can stand somewhere else, and you have more field coverage in that sense. So with the high like radius of the Dendro cores, you could theoretically get more damage than if you just had Nilou and Columbina's ring and field just follow your main character. But regardless, getting back to what we see on screen, look, the addition of Loma, you can see definitely made a big difference to the DPS of this team. We're getting to almost about 190, not quite, 185 I would say on average, or DPS here with the team, and you can see that Kokomi is doing quite a bit of damage there. So yeah, the impact of Lorma, just Lorma herself with the Lunar Bloom, is quite spectacular. So obviously, if we're then gonna add in someone like Columbina that increases the moon sign whatever level, you're gonna expect to get a bit more DPS. I mean, it's just kind of obvious. So in that sense, yes, a Colombina is gonna be better than a Kokomi. But for me, it was just surprising that on my account, that unless I go for Colombina constellations and stuff, the gap wasn't that big of a difference for me. I know at C0 the gap is a lot larger, but it's like I said, you're gonna expect it. The Kokomi is an old character, so if your new characters aren't competitive or aren't gonna outshine them, then obviously, yeah, it's not gonna be worthwhile to get it. And I think even with a Kokomi buff, even if the Hoyo dev team specifically give Kokomi like an EM buff in the future of some kind, I'm pretty sure they wouldn't. They'll probably balance it in a way to be just as or competitive enough just with Columbina without overriding it. But in any case, this is the power of a regional mechanic. You can see that we ramp up a lot quicker to our DPS, we get much more consistency at the top end, and as with in the Kokomi case, you can see that Colombina is the one doing the most damage. And I think this is what's so cool about Nilou Bloom teams, is the fact that you're really transforming a character that's supposed to be a healer or a support into the character that does the most of the team's damage, as you can see, as you saw there with Kokomi and now with Colombina. So it really is cool just to see how the contribution to DPS is split between the characters. Just another little thing that I didn't mention in the beginning. Obviously, I'm not playing this as hyper optimally as you can. I'm pretty sure there are some other people that can do a better job than me. But certainly from the perspective of what we have in game, I'm very happy with how things turned out. It makes me very happy to know that I have a solid upgrade if I really do need it, with Columbina being released, but also that, for at least from my personal account's perspective, it's not like Kokomi herself has fallen by the wayside. If anything, I think it just makes you appreciate just how much you can do with Kokomi and how far the character herself has come. Obviously, power creep will always affect most characters. I mean, just think like Varesan, right, and Shogun and stuff like that. I mean, these things happen, but at least we get much more of a sense that all of the things we talked about in the past when covering the Nilou Bloom teams, and a lot of the things we said about Kokomi being the primary one to deal damage and give you the Bloom reactions, a lot of the things we said without doing any theory crafting or like calculations, and just like from playing the game, all of that has been properly validated now, I suppose, with the DPS calculator. So I'm happy in that regard. And the other thing is, I'm someone that often finds a place for Kokomi, even if it's not going to result in the most meta team. So for me, at least, I know that whether I'm playing on this part of the Spiral Abyss, whether I'm doing a Nilou Bloom team, a Hyper Bloom team, a sort of Mono Hydra type of variation, or whatever, Kokomi herself always has a place. She's a very comfy character for me, and she also works really well with the lunar reactions and the lunar reaction archetype, or reaction archetype, that we've seen in Northcry. So that makes me very happy. I do hope that potentially in Snezhnaya that she'd also be one of those units that can function as part of the Premier 3s, although I do think Farina probably is going to take over that, but we don't know what the Snezhnaya mechanics are going to be. Regardless, the cool thing for me, once again, about Kokomi is just that versatility, that flexibility, and the fact that I can just be here against the little duck, and with the combination of Kokomi and like Columbina working together, you can also get some solid damage, even if it's not the most meta. So they work together, they can replace each other, but I mean, that's expected. It's Hydro. The Hydro category is very competitive, and obviously with the new lunar charge reactions, Columbina is going to get the edge because it's done by design. But other than that, our Cocofish isn't doing too bad, and I think that for me is really good to see. So I'm very happy with that. Happy with Columbina, happy with Kokomi, and it was definitely informative to see how the DPS and the reactions work with the DPS calculator. Hopefully we can do more of these types of videos in the future. Alright guys, let me know what you think, and thank you so much for watching. Cheers!